So I really think there's only a select few amount of foods that are just unanimously loved by all people. And I think that mac and cheese and buffalo wings are one of those things. So today we're going to combine a nice creamy mac and cheese with a beautiful tangy buffalo wing and make some buffalo chicken mac and cheese. Now, of course, we're not just going to take a box of Kraft mac and cheese and throw some buffalo sauce in it. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a really delicious 4-cheese mac and cheese with some smoked gouda, a really nice aged cheddar, some mozzarella, some pecorino romano, and for that buffalo chicken aspect, we're going to take a nice chicken cutlet, deep fry it with some panko breadcrumbs, coat it in some buffalo sauce, and put it right on top of that mac and cheese. Alright, so before we even do anything, we're going to go ahead and get our noodles ready. And for me personally, in my mac and cheese, I always use shells. I think shells are absolutely superior when it comes to mac and cheese. Go ahead and use macaroni noodles. You can use little bow ties if you feel like it. But for me personally, I think the shells are absolutely king. Now, you always want to season your pasta water, but to avoid wasting a higher quality salt that you would use on the rest of your food, I have this bin of the cheapest kosher salt that I can find, and I use that specifically for seasoning my pasta water. Go ahead and test the noodle to make sure it's cooked quite a bit undercooked. This pasta is going to sit in a hot cheese sauce and get baked in the oven, and the last thing that we would want is for it to turn to mush while it's in the oven. Mac and cheese is one of the few pastas you don't need pasta water for, so go ahead and strain your noodles and run them under cold water to stop the cooking while we get our cheese sauce ready. Now, I'm usually not too picky about many things in the kitchen, but I highly recommend you grate your own cheese for this recipe. It makes the dish so much better than if you use the pre-grated stuff. This is smoked gouda, cheddar, mozzarella, and pecorino romano cheeses, and now we have those ready to use in our cheese sauce. The next thing we want to get prepped up is a seasoning blend for the sauce and the flour for the chicken later. This is a hefty pinch of salt, half a tablespoon each of ground ginger, mustard powder, cayenne pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder, and then go ahead and crack in black pepper until you just don't feel like it anymore. Get that nice and mixed up, and now we're ready to go to the stove and make our bechamel. You're going to throw in 3 sticks or a cup and a half of butter into our Dutch oven, and once that butter's fully melted, you can go ahead and add another cup and a half of flour while whisking constantly. You want to cook this roux on medium heat for 3 to 5 minutes to cook out that raw flour taste, and now you're ready to add your milk. Now, whenever you're making a bechamel, you always need a lot more milk than you really think you do. You want to go ahead and add your cold milk in batches while constantly whisking it into that flour. It's going to look like you're doing it wrong at first. It's going to look a little bit chunky and weird, but stick with it. Keep adding milk, and soon you're going to have a nice and smooth bechamel sauce. I like to make it a little bit thinner than you'd think because adding all that cheese is going to thicken it up even more once you melt it all in there. Now you want to add in that seasoning mix we made, leaving enough for the flour for our chicken, and get that nice and incorporated before adding your cheeses in one by one. Now you want to make sure the one before is fully melted into the sauce to make sure everything gets fully incorporated before adding the next one. And now once all your cheeses are in there and melted up, you're going to have a really luxurious cheese sauce that we're ready to add our hot sauce to. Okay, now you guys know me, alright? I rep Crystal Hot Sauce as much as I possibly can, but for this recipe right here, I genuinely think Frank's Red Hot's just the way to go. I got our sauce back over to that counter, and I started off with a cup of that Frank's Red Hot, getting that fully incorporated. I love the swirls that it made while it mixed into the cheese sauce here. I thought that was really satisfying. After our Frank's was added, we had the perfect thickness for our sauce, which I made sure to give a quick taste to make sure that it wasn't poisoned. And now we're ready to add in those shells from earlier. Get your pasta nicely folded into that sauce, and now we're going to add something pretty controversial, okay? I really love a breaded topping on my mac and cheese. If you don't want to add this, feel free to skip it and just add more cheese on top, but I personally love the crunch it gives. These are some nice Japanese breadcrumbs that thinly cover the top of our mac and cheese before I grated some more pecorino and cheddar cheese on top. Threw it into a 375-degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. That's the perfect amount of time to get our chicken done. Our breading station is going to be some flour along with the rest of our seasoning blend from earlier. Make sure that's fully incorporated before cracking a couple of eggs and getting those nice and whisked up before moving on to our breadcrumbs. These are more of those amazing Japanese breadcrumbs that we used on top of our mac and cheese earlier. To bread our super thin chicken cutlets, we're going to get it coated with that flour, moving it into the egg, making sure it's fully covered before moving it over to those breadcrumbs. Once it's beautifully coated in those breadcrumbs, we're ready to go ahead and move over to the stove and fry this chicken up. These cutlets are very thin, so they're only going to take a couple of minutes to cook through. So to make sure they're as crispy as they can be, we're going to carefully drop them into some 400-degree peanut oil till they're beautifully golden brown. Now we're just about ready to get this plated up here, so before the mac and cheese is out of the oven, I went ahead and finally chopped up some fresh parsley for a really nice garnish later. Now after about 30 minutes, our mac and cheese comes out of the oven looking absolutely gorgeous and perfectly bubbly. The cheese on top got crispy along with those breadcrumbs, but I didn't expect it to fully separate from the breadcrumbs like this, so that gave me a pretty solid laugh. What the heck am I? After that, we were finally ready to plate up this mac and cheese after all that work. I went ahead and scooped plenty of it into a nice bowl, topped it with that beautifully sliced crispy chicken. This is some homemade ranch dressing that I actually really didn't want to come out of this bottle, so it came out pretty funny. This is a homemade hot sauce that I'll be posting a video on how to make soon. course, we're going to top it up with that fresh parsley. And now we're finally ready to enjoy the fruits of our labor. This is some of the most beautiful looking mac and cheese I've ever made. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. This thing looks incredible. But of course, we know all that matters is the taste. So of course, cheers everybody. That's incredible. Oh my God. The spice level of this thing is absolutely perfect. It tastes amazing. Spice is perfect. The cheesiness is there. It's creamy. I don't think you can beat this for a mac and cheese. All right, guys, just like that, we got another video down. This one completely blew me out of the water. It blew all my expectations up. It is incredibly good. The chicken is nice and crispy. The mac and cheese is super creamy. The spice is perfect. You guys really got to try this one out. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.